Okay, so today we're starting up a new section. New section today is called Modern India. So go ahead and write down Modern India and then underline. And you can see down here in the bottom the flag of India. So that's the flag for modern day India. You can also see the area that we're going to be talking about here. So you see India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal and Bhutan. So that's kind of the area that we are talking about. Now, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh used to be one country. They kind of get divided, but that happens later on. So we'll talk about that later on. New bullet. Go ahead and write down land of contrast. New bullet. Land of contrast. So India is a land of contrast. There's a lot of poor people in India, and there's also a lot of rich people as well in India. Go ahead and make a 1 and write down 179.6 million people are poor in India. So make a 1 and write down 179.6 million people are poor in India. You'll see over there in the picture on the right-hand side, that is Mother Teresa. She was declared a saint after her death for her work in helping out the poor in India. Number 2. There are 928 people in India that are worth over $100 million. So there's 179.6 million poor people in India, and there's 928 million people, or 928 people in India who are worth over $100 million. The richest person in India is this guy right here. And this guy right here is Mukesh Ambani. He's the richest person in India. He runs a company called Reliance Industries. Reliance Industries owns multiple other companies. So it's not, he doesn't own just like one company. He has like a whole bunch of companies that he owns under his group that he calls Reliance Industries. Okay, there's multiple inventions that have been invented in India. You don't need to write down these. I'm just going to talk about them. So for inventions in India, the digit number 0 comes from India, and kind of the numbering system we use, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Remember, we talked about inventions, or we talked about the numbers before when we were looking at Sanskrit. And when we looked at Sanskrit, we saw that some of their numbers look similar to our numbers. Not all of them, but some of their numbers did look very similar to the numbers that we had. And the digit 0 is from India. Now, we use the Arabic numeral system. We don't use the India numeral system. But the Arabic numeral system is, same thing as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But the symbols are from the Arabic numeral system, and not from India. But the number digit 0 that we use is from India. Chess was also invented in India as well. So if you've ever played chess, that's from India. Advanced mathematics such as algebra, trigonometry, and calculus are also from India as well. The decimal system comes from India. The game of snakes and ladders is from India. Value of pi, 3.14, is from India as well. So they're ones that came up with the value of pi. There are people in India have won Nobel Prizes in literature, physics, economics, peace, and medicine. What are Nobel Prizes? They're prizes given out once a year in various categories such as literature, physics, economics, peace, and medicine. The prizes, the Nobel Prizes, are named after Alfred Nobel. Alfred Nobel had invented TNT, and the reason why he came up with the Nobel Prizes is because when he invented TNT, TNT was responsible for the deaths of a lot of people. So there was a fake news report about how he had died, and in that news report, it was pretty negative about Alfred Nobel. It was like, this guy was terrible. He invented TNT and it killed, thousands of people. And he's like, I don't want to be known as like a terrible person. So he came up with the Nobel Prizes as a way of making his legacy more positive. New bullet, invasions. New bullet, invasions. And then make it 1. India has never invaded any country in her 10,000 years of history. So 1, India has never invaded any country in her 10,000 years of history. So India's been around for about 10,000 years, and during that time period, India's never invaded anybody else. India has had wars inside of India between various kingdoms. There's multiple kingdoms in India. There wasn't just, India wasn't just one country the entire time. There's other kingdoms in India, and those kingdoms would fight against each other. But nobody in India, in this subcontinent of India, has ever left India and then tried to invade somewhere else. There are a lot of religions, of course, in India. You have Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. All those were developed in India, and about 25% of the world's population is a follower of one of those four religions. We talked about Hinduism and Buddhism before, back in our last unit, and Jainism and Sikhism are both denominations of Hinduism. Okay. Also remember we had bullet invasions and then one. India has never invaded any country in 10,000 years history. So bullet invasions, and that was one. Okay. 2. Persian invasion in 500 before Common Era. So Persian invasion in 500 before Common Era. And you see the Persian flag up here. So you see the guy there with the two wings and a tail. That's the flag for the Persians. The Persians had invaded into India, particularly into the Indus River Valley area is where they had invaded. You may not know what a Persian is. If you might hear people, for example, be called a Persian, be like, hey, I'm a Persian. But you're like, well, there's no Persia country, so where are you from? That means they're just from Iran. So if anybody calls themselves a Persian, that just means they're from Iran. Number 3, Greek invasion in 327 before Common Era. So 3, Greek invasion in 327 before Common Era. And you can see the Greek flag right there. The Greek invasion in 327 before Common Era is from Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great wasn't actually a Greek. He was from north of the Greek city-states, from an area called Macedonia. His father had taken over the Greek city-states, and then Alexander the Great, after his father's death, has cemented his control over the Greek city-states. Then Alexander the Great invaded Persia, and this time period, Persia owned quite a lot of territory. But Alexander the Great invades into Persia, takes over Egypt, takes over Persia, Iran, goes into Central Asia, gets married. Then he invades into India, into the Indus River Valley. And during that invasion, he gets shot by an arrow. Everybody thinks he's dead, but he's actually alive. But he was pretty badly injured. He then decides to return back to Persia, Iran, with his military force. When he gets back to Persia, he dies a few months later, either from wounds that he suffered from being shot by the arrow or somebody poisoned him. Either one. Number 4, Turks in 1175 Common Era. Turks in 1175 Common Era. And you see the Turks flag right here with the double-headed bird and the bow. Turks. So the Turks, they're from Central Asia, kind of from modern-day country of Turkmenistan. That's where the Turks are from. They're an ethnic group. The Turks invaded down into other areas starting in kind of the 1000s. They started to invade and leave their territory for other territories. So they get into India in 1175. They also get into kind of the Turkey area as well in the 1000s. Turkey is named after the Turks, not named after the bird, named after the Turks. So the Turks end up taking over in 1175 into India. And the bird Turkey actually gets its name from the Turks as well, because the bird was getting traded by these Turks merchants, and therefore people that started calling them turkeys after the Turks. Number 5, Mughals in 1526 Common Era. And you see the Mughal flag down here, the lion and the sun. So the Mughals invade in 1526 Common Era into India as well. They're from Central Asia, and they're descendants of the Mongolians. And the Mughals never totally take over India. They simply take over the northern half of India. And after they take over the northern half of India, that's kind of where they end up kind of getting stopped at. Eventually, their power over northern India kind of falls apart in the 1700s, and that's when the British then take over the country. All right, let's go ahead and stop there for today.